All right, let's kick things off today. Welcome, everyone. We're diving deep into the art of philosophical writing. Ever feel like your ideas deserve a standing ovation, but your writing, well, it's more of a golf clap?
Yeah, that's where we come in.
Exactly. We're here to give you the tools to make your arguments sing, not just sound, kind of okay.
And the cool thing,
Yeah.
these skills, they're useful for anyone who wants to communicate clearly.
Oh, totally. Like presentations at work, even winning an argument, just everyday stuff.
It's all about structuring your thoughts and making them stick.
I like that.
Heck.
Making them stick. Okay, so to guide us on this mission, we've got a pretty cool stack of sources.
We do. Excerpts from A Guide to Philosophical Writing, some insightful notes, even a sneak peek at a work-in-progress guide.
Ooh, a work in progress. Exclusive. Okay, so flipping through these, one thing that really jumped out at me.
Yeah.
Purpose. It's like every source is yelling, hey, you need a destination for your paper.
Oh, they're not wrong.
Right, like just having interesting thoughts isn't enough. You got to chisel those thoughts
Exactly.
into a crystal clear thesis statement.
And that thesis, it's not just a topic, it's a claim you're going to defend.
Could you give an example? I think a good versus bad thesis would help illustrate that.
Sure, imagine you're writing about ethics and artificial intelligence. A weak thesis might be like, artificial intelligence is complex with many ethical implications.
That might be too broad.
Right. No focus. Now, a stronger thesis would be, developing AI should prioritize human well-being over, say, economic efficiency.
Ah, okay, so you're not just stating the obvious, you're actually taking a stand.
Exactly. A debatable position you can defend.
That makes total sense. Gives your paper that backbone that...
Totally. It tells the reader what you're arguing and why they should care.
Speaking of readers, the sources had a lot to say about audience, too. Why is understanding your audience so crucial?
Because ultimately, you're writing to connect with someone. And the more you know about that someone, the better you can tailor your message.
So who are we writing to? A room full of, philosophy rock stars.
Not quite. Picture someone who's curious, loves a good intellectual challenge, but maybe they've only dipped their toes into philosophy.
Okay, so like a friend who's super smart but hasn't really gone down the philosophy rabbit hole.
Exactly. So think explaining a complex idea to that friend. You got to break things down, avoid the jargon, make it relevant to their world.
Right, keep it clear, keep it engaging.
That's the name of the game.
So I guess that means no fancy philosophical terms or expecting them to decode like super complex theories without a little help.
Exactly. We're aiming to illuminate, not confuse.
But doesn't simplifying too much risk losing the nuance of, philosophical thought?
It's a balance for sure.
Yeah.
But our sources stress that clarity and complexity aren't mutually exclusive.
Right.
You can be clear and precise without sacrificing depth. It's about finding that sweet spot.
Where the reader feels challenged, but not like they're drowning in a sea of jargon.
Exactly.
So it's like we're guiding them through this philosophical landscape, pointing out the important landmarks, explaining the significance.
I like that.
Yeah, helping them appreciate the complexity without getting lost.
That's exactly what these sources aim to teach us. How to be effective guides in the world of philosophical ideas.
Awesome. So we understand the why, the who. Yeah. Now let's get into the how.
Let's do it. How to build those compelling arguments that our sources keep raving about.
All right. So I guess you could say the engine of our philosophical road trip.
I like that. And just like an engine needs fuel, philosophical arguments need logic and evidence.
Because a paper isn't just about sharing opinions, it's about building a case.
A strong one.
Yeah, and a solid case needs, evidence.
Absolutely.
So like if we were in one of those crime dramas.
Oh, I love those.
Right. Each argument, each piece of evidence would have to fit perfectly to make that airtight case.
And just like a detective has their tools, philosophers have different argument types at their disposal.
Ooh, okay. This sounds interesting. So what are these different argument types?
Well, our sources highlight deductive, inductive, and inferences to the best explanation.
Okay, I'm going to need those unpacked a bit. A real-world example would be awesome.
Absolutely. Let's take deductive reasoning. Think of the classic. All men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal.
Oh yeah. The Socrates example, it seems so straightforward, but it really shows the power of logic.
Exactly. If your premises are true, then the conclusion must logically follow. No way around it.
Like a math equation, 1 + 1 always equals 2.
Precisely.
So deductive arguments are like the slam dunk of philosophical writing.
You could say that.
But what about when things aren't so clear-cut?
That's where inductive reasoning comes in. Instead of universal truths, it relies on observations and patterns.
Okay, so give me an example.
Imagine you're studying swan behavior. You observe hundreds, all white.
Right.
Inductively, you might conclude, all swans are white.
So I've seen a pattern. I assume it applies everywhere.
Exactly. But then imagine you travel to Australia and bam.
A black swan.
Exactly. Inductive reasoning is about probability, not certainty.
Right. New evidence can always pop up and challenge your assumptions.
Exactly. So acknowledging those limitations is crucial.
So you're saying it's important to choose the right argument type for the job.
Absolutely.
Like having different tools in a toolbox.
Perfect analogy.
Sometimes you need a hammer, sometimes a screwdriver.
And a skilled philosopher knows which tool to use for each argument.
That makes sense. Okay, we've got our tools, we've got our materials, now it's time to build. And the sources, they talk a lot about structure.
Yeah, structure's key.
Right. A well-structured argument is like a well-designed building.
I like where you're going with this.
It's solid, coherent, easy to navigate.
And just like a building needs a strong foundation, a philosophical argument needs solid premises.
Each premise is like a building block.
Yes.
And they all have to be strong and well-supported.
Otherwise, the whole argument crumbles.
Right. So it's not enough to just make a claim. You got to back it up with evidence and reasoning.
Exactly.
But how do we know our premises are actually strong enough?
That's where critical thinking kicks in. You got to scrutinize your premises, consider different viewpoints, anticipate objections.
It's like you're playing devil's advocate with your own argument.
You got it. You need to be able to defend your position. One way to do that.
Yeah.
Provide clear justifications for each premise. Use examples, illustrations to make your points more concrete.
Especially for our audience, right?
Yeah.
That friend who's curious but needs a little extra hand-holding.
You got it. It's all about guiding the reader through your line of reasoning, making sure they understand each step.
Okay, so we've laid a strong foundation with our premises. Now we need to build on it, right?
We do.
How do we actually construct these arguments so they're logical yet engaging?
And that's where the concept of narrative structure comes in.
Narrative structure. So we're telling a story even in a philosophical paper.
You got it. Even in this context, a good story can make all the difference. It's the thread that weaves everything together.
Okay, so how do we create that thread? What are some strategies?
Well, the sources highlight signposting, transitions, and using examples effectively.
Signposting, is that like those signs you see on a hiking trail telling you where to go and how far you've come?
Exactly. In writing, it's using clear language to guide your reader. You're basically saying, hey, we just covered this point, now we're moving on to this one, and here's how they connect to the bigger picture.
Like a roadmap, making sure they don't get lost.
Precisely. And transitions, they're like the bridges between paragraphs.
Yeah, I've definitely read papers where ideas jump around so much it's hard to follow.
Yeah, it happens. So using those transitional words and phrases to signal shifts, introduce new points, that's key.
Okay, so we're weaving this tapestry of ideas, carefully connecting each thread.
Beautifully put. A philosophical argument, it's more than just premises and conclusions.
It's the way you weave them together with narrative structure, compelling language that brings it to life.
Exactly.
This is great. We've covered so much. Purpose, audience, argument types, even narrative structure. Starting to see how it all fits together.
Me too. Like we're piecing together a puzzle, and that bigger picture is starting to emerge.
But there's still more.
Okay.
Another layer to explore.
Oh, yes. There's one more element that can really make or break even the most brilliant argument.
And that is?
Presentation. The art of presenting these ideas in a way that truly captivates your reader.
Okay, I'm all ears. Let's dive into that.
Let's do it. It's like we've baked this amazing philosophical cake, but now we need the frosting.
Ooh, the frosting.
The style. That's what we're talking about, the presentation.
Right. It's what makes it truly delicious, irresistible even.
And just like with frosting, there are tons of styles in philosophical writing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I'm guessing there are some ground rules, some must-haves, regardless of your personal style.
Absolutely. And if our sources agree on one thing, it's this. Clarity reigns supreme.
So no more hiding behind big words or super complex sentences to sound more, intellectual.
Nope. Remember our audience. That friend who's eager to learn but needs a clear path.
Right.
They won't appreciate being bombarded with jargon.
It's like we're leading them through a garden, and we want them to enjoy the flowers, not get tangled in thorns.
Exactly. Clarity helps your reader focus on your argument, not on deciphering your language.
Okay, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
But doesn't simplifying too much risk watering down those complex ideas.
It's a balance for sure.
Yeah.
But our sources are clear. You can be clear and precise.
How do we strike that balance?
One way is to use specific, concrete language.
So instead of saying Plato believed in truth, we'd say something like, Plato argued that true knowledge lies in the realm of forms, those eternal and unchanging things.
Perfect. By being specific, you clarify your meaning and make the writing more vivid.
Okay, that makes sense. So clarity, check. Precision, check. What about tone? I mean, philosophy can get pretty intense. Should our writing reflect that?
That's a good question. The sources actually recommend a balance. Be forthright, but friendly. State your claims directly, but keep it respectful, engaging.
So no lecturing down to the reader or being, passive-aggressive in footnotes?
Definitely not. We're trying to invite the reader into a conversation, not push them away.
Like hosting a philosophical dinner party.
Yeah.
We want a lively discussion, not a food fight.
Exactly. A good philosophical paper should feel like a stimulating conversation.
Okay, I like that. So we've got our ingredients: clear purpose, understanding our audience, building strong arguments, weaving them into a narrative, and presenting them with clarity, precision, and a friendly tone.
That's a great summary. We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. And I think our listeners are well on their way to crafting some truly compelling philosophical papers.
I think so, too. Papers that are not only insightful, but also a pleasure to read.
Right. And who knows, maybe this deep dive will inspire them to tackle their own philosophical writing adventures.
I hope so. Everyone has something to say, and philosophical writing gives them the tools to say it clearly, rigorously, and with style.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So we've talked about purpose, audience, how to build those rock-solid arguments, weave them into a narrative that flows, but there's one more piece of the puzzle.
Okay, lay it on me. What's this missing piece?
Think of it like this. You've spent all this time crafting this amazing argument. It's insightful. It's well-structured.
Right, I'm following you.
But now you need to make sure it actually lands with your reader.
So it's not just what you say, it's how you say it.
Exactly. It's all about the delivery, the presentation. You want your ideas to not just be understood, but to resonate, to stick with the reader long after they've finished the last sentence.
Okay, I'm getting it. So how do we do that? What are some strategies for making our philosophical writing truly captivating?
Well, one key thing that came up in our sources is the power of examples.
Examples? Okay, yeah, those are always helpful. They can make abstract ideas, like in philosophy, a lot more concrete.
Precisely. A well-chosen example can illuminate a complex concept, making it instantly relatable and memorable for the reader.
It's like instead of just talking about justice in the abstract, you could give a real-world example of a situation where justice was either served or denied. That would make it much more impactful.
Exactly. That's exactly what we're talking about. And the beauty of examples is that they can come from anywhere: history, literature, current events, even personal experiences.
So it's like we're giving our reader a toolkit of their own, equipping them with examples they can use to understand and apply these philosophical ideas in their own lives.
I love that. It's about empowering the reader, not just informing them. And that brings us to another crucial aspect of presentation: clarity of language.
Clarity. Okay. So are we talking about avoiding jargon again?
That's part of it, for sure. But it goes beyond just avoiding technical terms. It's about choosing words that are precise and easy to understand, constructing sentences that are clear and concise.
So no more long-winded sentences that meander all over the place.
Definitely not. We want to be direct, to the point, so our reader can follow our line of reasoning without getting bogged down in unnecessarily complex language.
Okay, so clarity is about making our writing accessible to the reader, making sure our ideas shine through without any unnecessary distractions.
Exactly. And that ties into another important point: conciseness.
Conciseness, okay. So getting rid of all the fluff, all the extra words that don't really add anything to our argument.
Precisely. Every word should serve a purpose. Every sentence should contribute to the overall flow of our argument.
So it's like we're sculpting our writing, chiseling away the unnecessary bits until we're left with a lean, mean, philosophical machine.
I love that analogy. It's about precision, about saying what needs to be said in the most effective way possible.
Okay, so we've got clarity, conciseness. Anything else we need to keep in mind when it comes to presentation?
Well, our sources also talked about the importance of being mindful of our overall tone.
Tone, right. That can make such a difference in how our writing is received.
Absolutely. And in philosophy, where arguments can get pretty heated, it's especially important to strike the right balance.
So no condescending lectures or snarky remarks aimed at opposing viewpoints.
Definitely not. Remember, we're trying to invite the reader into a dialogue to encourage critical thinking, not to shut down conversation with an overly aggressive or dismissive tone.
Okay, I'm getting it. So we want to be assertive in presenting our arguments, but also respectful of other viewpoints.
Exactly. It's about being confident in our own ideas, but also open to the possibility that we might learn something from engaging with different perspectives.
This has been so insightful. We've covered so much ground today, from the importance of a clear purpose and understanding our audience, to the art of crafting compelling arguments, structuring them effectively, and presenting them in a way that truly captivates the reader.
I agree. It's been a fantastic journey through the key elements of philosophical writing.
I think our listeners are now well equipped to not just write, but truly excel in their philosophical endeavors.
Absolutely. So, to all our listeners out there, remember, the world needs your ideas, and philosophical writing provides a powerful framework for sharing those ideas with clarity, rigor, and style.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So until next time, keep those philosophical wheels turning and happy writing.